Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another day and another 5-minute Bible study. Today we are in 1 Samuel chapter 23. And if you're new here, know that we've already gone through Genesis 1 all the way to 1 Samuel 23, and there's free PDFs that you can download for every single chapter on our website. So let's talk about this chapter. David is on the run for Saul, and he will be for some time still in the future, in the upcoming chapters. When did these events happen historically? We are still approximately between the years 1015 BC and 1010 BC. Our major important key characters in this chapter are David. He's been anointed the next king of Israel, but he's not king yet. The current king, named Saul, he wants David dead, and he's been chasing him around trying to hunt him down and kill him. We're also going to talk about a guy named Abiathar, who we briefly mentioned in chapter 22. He was the son of Ahimelech, the priest, and as far as we know, he was the only son of Ahimelech who survived the slaughter of the priests of Nob at the hands of Doeg, which you may remember if you've been studying along with us. Jonathan is our last key character. He was the son of King Saul, but he was also the best friend of David. Our map is a little bit complicated. We are going to be down in the region of Judah. We're going to talk about a city named Keilah or Keilah. I'm not sure how to say that one. This city was attacked by the Philistines in this chapter. We're going to talk about the wilderness of Ziph and Horesh. You'll see Horesh on the map. The wilderness of Maon and En-gedi. These were all places where David hid from Saul. Now, our first section is relatively short and straightforward. David saves the city and the inhabitants of Keilah, verses 1 through 5. David received word from the that the Philistines were attacking an Israelite city known as Keilah. And he went to God and he asked God, should I take my band of men and go up there and defend the Israelites and fight off the Philistines? And God confirmed that yes, he should do that. So that's exactly what David did, and God gave him the victory there, and he saved the people of Keilah. Section number 2 is verses 6 through 13. Saul attempts to trap David at Keilah. So after escaping the slaughter of the priests in chapter 22, Abiathar ran to David, and we're told that he was carrying an ephod, which was a priestly garment. When Saul found out that David had saved the city of Keilah and that his men were there, he planned to take his army down to the city and to trap David's men inside and finally get the better of them, because apparently the city had walls, so he thought he could trap them inside of the walls and the gates of the city. David went to God again. He took Abiathar's ephod and he went to God. He asked God for help and for direction. God revealed to him that if he stayed in Keilah, the inhabitants of that town would turn him over to Saul. And so David took his 600 men at this point and he ran away. Now let's close out the chapter with verses 14 through 29. Saul pursues David in Horesh and in Maon, or Moan, or however, some weird names in this chapter. David went from Keilah to the strongholds in the wilderness of Ziph at Horesh. You can see Horesh on the map. It's just to the west of the Dead Sea. Jonathan came down there and visited him and encouraged David while he was there. Jonathan said to David, quote, "Do not fear, for the hand of Saul my father shall not find you. You shall be king over Israel, and I shall be next to you. Saul my father also knows this." That's verse 17. You got to admire Jonathan here because, he could have joined up with his father, because he was probably next in line for the throne, joined up with Saul, killed David. He could have taken the throne for himself, but Jonathan recognized here is like, no, God wants David to be king, and I'm going to align with that plan. After encouraging David, Jonathan went home, and we're told that the Ziphites, who lived near Horesh, sent messengers to Saul to inform Saul that David was hiding in their land. So Saul took men and he chased David into the wilderness of Maon. David's army had to hurry to escape, and we're told that at one point the two groups were so close to each other that Saul's army was on one side of a mountain and David's army was on the other side of the mountain, and Saul was gaining ground. However, Saul received a very urgent message. He was told that the Philistines were raiding Israelite cities, and so he had no choice but to give up his chase of David and to return to fight the Philistines and to defend his territory. David called the place, quote, the rock of escape, because certainly God had helped him escape from his enemies. David left Maon in the wilderness, and he lived in the strongholds of En-gedi. And that is where we'll pick up his story in chapter 24. Now for our application section. Don't abandon faith. Sometimes God saves at the last moment. As Saul was closing in on his army, David, you could possibly have assumed that, well, God's opportunity to save him had passed. There was nothing that could be done now to save him from the hand of Saul. He could have abandoned faith. I'm sure David probably saw no way out of his predicament, but what we find out is that God had already set David's salvation in motion through the Philistines. Remember this story the next time that you begin to lose hope. When the window of salvation from your problem or your predicament is getting narrower and narrower, the very last thing you want to do is give up faith. Sometimes God delivers us at the first sign of trouble, and sometimes he has reasons to wait until the very last moment to show us our salvation.